Hello everyone, I'm Shi Dong from School of Grassland in Beijing Forestry University. Today I want to share with you about a story on China's grassland ecosystem to global change. My talk actually focuses on 5 parts. Firstly, I want to give you a brief introduction of grassland resources and ecosystem in China. Secondly, I want to share with you facts of global changes in the grassland areas of China. Thirdly, I want to give you some points about the impacts of global change on grassland ecosystem in China. And fourthly, I want to share with you about adaptation strategies of a grassland ecosystem to global change. And lastly, I want to share with you strategies to enhance the adaptive management of Chinese grassland ecosystem. So, about the grassland resources and ecosystem in China. Many of you may know the grassland actually located in northern and western China. So here is a line which we call the transition line between the agriculture area and the pastoral area. And in the northern and western part is grassland areas in China. And of course, we have made the grassland distribution map in Chinese many years ago. And in terms of the area, almost, let's say, 400 million hectares of land territory were covered by grassland, which is 40% of China's total territory. In terms of size, the Chinese grassland ranking in the second places in the world. According to Chinese classification system of grassland, there are 18 types of grassland in whole China. So from eastern to western, in northern part of China, we have the temperate meadow steppe, and the temperate steppe, temperate desert steppe, and temperate steppe desert, and temperate desert. This is from the eastern to western in northern China. We also have the highest plateau in the world, which is the Qinghai Tibetan Plateau. We have the 5 types of grassland over there, which are alpine meadow steppe, alpine steppe, alpine desert steppe, and alpine desert. So in low mountains and hilly areas of southern part of China, we have these types of grassland. We have the tropical herbaceous and tropical shrub herbaceous and arid tropical shrub herbaceous scattered with the trees of savanna. And we have warmer temperate herbaceous and warmer temperate shrub herbaceous and temperate mountain meadow and the lowland meadow. Last one is marsh. So totally, we have 18 types of grassland in China. So when we say the components of the grassland in China, we mainly say there are 4 components. First, very important is vegetation, means plants. And we also have animals, not only livestock, but also wildlife on the grassland. All these plants and animals were managed by humans. And of course, vegetation, animal interacted with environment. When we talk about the environment here, we mainly say water, soil, and air. So in this sense, we can say the different components are interact each other and formed the coupled physical, ecological, or social cultural systems. Of course, the grassland in China provide very important function and services. When we talk about the function and services, mainly we have three types of function or services. First one is productive function services, means produce the plants, forages, and of course livestock from grassland. Second one is livelihood function services, means that human beings living on the grassland for their daily life. And the third one is ecological function services, means the grassland provide carbon sequestration, water regulation, and climate regulation are these kinds of function and services. So we say the ecosystem services of grassland are mainly three types of ecosystem function or services. I want to give you details about the productive service and function. So in China, the grassland serves as a pastoral production basis. Over 40 million of yak, means 90% of the total population in the world of yaks are found in Chinese grassland. And 40 millions of Tibetan sheep and goats are raised in the alpine grassland of China, mainly on Tibetan Plateau. These are the pictures of grazing yaks. And also, grassland provide fiber, mineral, energy, medicine, vegetable, mushroom, and other living materials for local residents and outsiders in whole China. Here you can see these are silages, haylage harvested from the grassland in China. Second service is ecological services and function. So grassland ecosystems in China serves as a water tower. Why water tower? You know, on high mountains, especially on Tibetan Plateau, we have the glacier covered the mountain. So when glacier melting, the water will from the high mountains to the grassland and incharged into the river. So we say these are the very huge, just like reservoirs for the fresh water. So we call the water tower for grassland is a water tower. And of course, a very important watershed for many parts of South, Southeast, East, and Central Asia. So grassland provide very beautiful landscapes and high values of ecological services, just like climate control, rich biodiversity, and carbon sequestration, erosion control, and recreation production. So in terms of third services and function are livelihood services and function. So in China, actually, grassland carries a very high population of indigenous people. They have very unique culture, tradition, and a theme. So here, this picture is a Tibetan woman is waving a tent. These are also the grassland people, Tibetans. They are performing the traditional Tibetan dance. And also, the Tibetan women, they are processing the milk collected from the grassland animals. Second, about the facts of global change in grassland area of China. So when we talking about the global changes, there are many kind of facts saying the changes. First one is climate change. That means areas most vulnerable and refugees, like the Qinghai Tibetan Plateau, which are very fragile or vulnerable to the climate change. Second one is land use change, or land use or land cover change. So oftentimes the land cover will associated with climate or land use change. And the population growth is another content of global changes. Both, growth of human and livestock population. Economic development is another global change, which means the changes of global trade and marketing systems. Of course, here is also geopolitical changes like the policies and the strategies, management plans changes in these dimensions. And of course, the last one is developing initiatives like the development of tourism, highways, minings, and roads. These are the major global changes perspective. So first, when mostly nowadays we are focusing on mostly on the climate change in global settings. This is a very good record about the global warming in recent decades. Here we can say that since the beginning of the 20th century, the warming is happening everywhere in the world, particularly in Asia region, and in China, of course, the warming is really, really severe. And of course, this kind of climate warming is mainly driven by the human activities. There's a very famous study done by the Curling, famous American scholars. He found that the recent climate warming is associated with the CO2 emission into the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution period. So that means many evidence shows that the Curling curve is really man-made. That means climate warming is driven by the human activities. Second one is about the, let's say, greenhouse gas, the CO2. I already mentioned in the last slides that the global warming is actually driven by CO2. So we are saying, in addition to CO2, we have other greenhouse gases like the methane, which contribute to 90% of the, let's say, global warming, and nitrous oxide and CFC and other herbivores. So when we talk about the greenhouse gases, we are mainly talking about, these are human induced greenhouse gases, mainly from, this is from industry, land use change, agriculture, and of course, refrigerator and air conditioning, energy use like the factory, cars. These are major sources of the greenhouse gases, which of course cause the global warming. And very recently, a lot of scientists and scholars and also politicians are concentrate on the, let's say, nitrogen deposition. I already shared that nitrous oxide is one of the very important greenhouse gases. But nowadays, because of the fertilization, because of the industrialization, so nitrogen in a gas emitted into the atmosphere, and those nitrogen deposited to the on the earth cause the very important, let's say, very severe impacts on the plants, animals, and the ecosystems on the earth. So in China, we can say, especially in grassland areas of China, we really found the significant increase in temperature. In this part, look here, the red dot, it means very significant increase in temperature. So in terms of precipitation or rainfall, we can say in the grassland areas of China. Here, there's bigger variation. In some rare areas, the green means the increase of precipitation, and the yellow one means the decrease of precipitation. So we can say that there's great variation of precipitation across grassland areas of China. This is a national scale. At the site scale or regional scale, we can say we can find the same trends. This data shows you the significantly increase of temperature in the grassland areas of Inner Mongolia, and this is a significant decrease of rainfall in Inner Mongolia. But there's a very significant seasonal variation. In some season, there's decrease of the rainfall, but in some season, especially winter season, there's increase of snowfall. So decrease rainfall and increase of snowfall cause very big disaster on the grassland, especially for the livestock production. And of course, population growth is another fact, another dimension of the global change. Here is statistic data from the county level. We call around the county on the Qinghai Tibetan Plateau, Xinhai County. We can find since the 1950s, there's the foundation of the People's Republic of China. At that time, the livestock means there's let's say total livestock and large herbivores and goats and sheep are totally increased. When we look at between the 1950s to 2005, there's triples, even 4 times of increase of livestock number. At the same time, the population growth, human population growth also grows. During the same period, 1950 to the 1990s, there's also 3 times or 4 times increase of population, not only on the from the urban population, but also rural, especially the herders, are increased. That means both the herders population and the livestock population increase, but the grassland area still remain same, intact. So that means a lot of pressures, human pressures and livestock raising pressures on the grassland. Of course, land cover change is another very important factor of climate change, global change perspectives. So here I want to show you some facts of land use change, land cover change in grassland areas of China. So this is a very good example of land cover change on the grassland. We say this technique as a rephotograph technique to show changes in a period of time. So in the left, here is one of the very famous tourists. His name is Joseph Rock, American tourist. He took the picture in Baima Pass, which is located in northwest Yunnan, and around 4,200 meters. Here is a tree line. You look, this green is a tree line, and here is the landslides. Tree line, above this tree line is a grassland. But after 80 years later, in 2003, another American tourist and also he is an ecologist took the same photo at the same places with the same camera, and found after 80 years later. So the previous picture was taken in 1923, and 80 years later, 2003, tree line increased a lot to here. if almost a 40 meters increase and landslides disappear, that means after 80 years, the tree line increase, and the tree encroached the grassland area. So that means the grassland will decline. And also, you can, with the same technique, the photographic technique, we can find the land use change in long term. The same picture taken by the Joshua Rock in 1923, and after 80 years later, Bob Busley, the ecologist, took the picture at the same places with the same camera, found there's a big change. Look, this monastery, Tibetan monastery, disappeared, and the land use were covered by the shrub and the. So that means the grassland may be replaced, and some culture and some tradition was also were changed because of the land use, land cover change. The last global change is development and modernization. So look, in the past, in the grassland area, most of the herders and pastoralists, they use the traditional way to move. But nowadays, a lot of modern machinery like the trucks and the highway and railway are built in the grassland area. They totally changed their way of life. So these are the global change. So how this global change affect the grassland ecosystems? I mean both the natural perspective and the social perspective in China. So impacts of global change on grassland and the related ecosystems from highland to lowland. Some scholar, Professor Xu Jianchu, did a very good study and summarized how these changes are happening. I mean, here is a highland, grassland. A trend may be overgrazing, degradation, and so on, cause of biodiversity loss, like invasive species increase, and carbon sequestration was changed from sink to south, and water purification and water regulation kind of services also changed, deteriorating sensitive to climate change, and of course, eventually influenced the livelihood, caused the poverty of the local people. Of course, we say that the global change on grassland resources and environment mainly caused by the overgrazing and degradation. So here, one of the Chinese scholars did a study and found that population growth, Chinese pasture land policies, and climate warming, jointly causes the problem of overgrazing, short of pastoral land, and lastly, cause the grassland degradation. So if the grassland were degraded, so which will cause a very serious problem in terms of productive, ecological, and livelihood services and function. So here, roughly, in the past, we found there's huge areas of grassland degradation in China, mainly in pastoral or grassland regions on Tibetan plateau like Sichuan, Gansu, Qinghai, Tibet. So, has an increasing trend of grassland degradation from 1980s to 1990s. The climate change and associated with population growth and economic development and social, political changes will drive the grassland degradation, and the grassland degradation will influence on the biodiversity and carbon sequestration. So here we say that plant diversity of functional groups changed dramatically. The primary vegetation of sedges of alpine meadow decreased, but the secondary vegetation like the forbs increased dramatically. And also, in terms of carbon, in the degraded grassland, the degraded grassland becomes the carbon source, but the health grassland acts as a carbon sink. So from the sink to the source, this is driven by the grassland degradation. And of course, the productivity of grassland decreased as well. Here, because of the climate change, look, the dryness and the warming and the drying cause the decrease of the above ground and below ground in the temperate grassland in China. And for the livelihood, especially the herders, so cause the large-scale poverty, and because of the, let's say, grassland degradation and loss of diversity and decrease of water table, a lot of pastoralists, herders, have to migrate to the urban areas, and which also cause a lot of social problems as well. Sometimes migrants' living standard is declining, and it is very hard to identify the ecological migrants themselves by the identity and the appearance of routine of the migrants, and the loss of a scenic culture and social instability in the community. These are also some social problems as well. Look here is a very good example in Chimalai County, which is called the water tower areas on Qinghai Tibetan Plateau, where the source of the headwater areas of Yangtze River. Of course, theoretically and these areas are rich in fresh water, but because of grassland degradation, so grassland functions of water regulation declined very much. So water table declined day by day. So here the story says the number of water wells decreased from 138 in the past to 8 in 2000, and 80% of the local inhabitants living in towns have to buy water for daily use. This is a very, very tricky story. Even they're living on the headwater area, they still have to buy water from outside. So how to solve this problem? Through adaptive strategies. So here we want to say we have some adaptation strategies to cope with global change. First one is risk management and resilience enhancement. These are two key adaptation strategies to climate change. So what is risk management? Risk management is identification, assessment, and prioritization of risk, followed by coordinated and economic applications of resources to minimize, monitor, and control the probability and or impact of unfortunate events. These are the definition of risk management. And the resilience enhancement is the capacity of social and ecosystems to absorb the disturbances and still retain their basic function and structure. For the grassland area, the grassland ecosystem and the people living on the grassland, let's say, the herders, pastoralists, they can absorb disturbances like climate warming and social, ecological, social, political changes. They can absorb this disturbance and still remain their own structure and function. To understand the adaptation strategies and their function and structure, a number of questions need to be clarified by our whole society. So we need to ask what worked. Why? How did they work? To what extent will these strategies survive global change? To what extent are these strategies applicable? And are there successful strategies that are likely to stand the test of global change? And what are they? Can these strategies be improved in the light of more current knowledge about climate change and adaptation? How can this best be done? These are questions needed to be clarified in terms of the adaptation strategies. So adaptation to global change from the, let's say, grassland perspective, we need to know about knowledge enhancement, the local pastoral knowledge worked for adaptation to climate change. We need to know how the local people prepared for the climate change. So we need to know preparedness. And we need to understand what the key role played by the mobility of the local people and what are the social networks were and how diversify their livelihoods and functions of grassland and how the collective actions among the society to play, how exchange the information and technology need to be enhanced, and how enhance the local specificity to the to adapt to the global change. So here are some regional transition pathways. So we already said that the global change, one of the big problem of global change is population growth. So if there's too many population on the grassland will be degraded. So we might diversify the livelihoods for those increased population. So diversify them into the multiple ones. For example, to change their as a traditional pastoralists or herders into the tourist guides or truck drivers and so on. So by doing so, the grazing pressures on the grassland may be reduced. So from the grazing management strategies, we can strengthen the transhuman and rotational grazing. You know, because of the climate warming, so spring pasture at lower land, the plants regrowing very earlier, so we can give the early grazing. And the high altitude area, summer grazing pastures, the growth period prolonged, so we can enhance the grazing period on the summer pasture. These are the kind of the adaptive management to cope with climate change from the grazing system. Yeah, here you can see from the mountain grassland area, we can doing early grazing to the in May of spring and prolong the summer grazing period at the high altitude. So let's say adjusted the grazing system can be a good strategy to adapt to the climate change. Of course, for the degraded grassland, we do the restoration program to revegetate to do revegetation on the severely degraded through the human-induced strategies like planting the shrubs and the grasses on the very much degraded areas like Loess Plateau and the Qinghai Plateau. Of course, here are also technical innovations. We did a study on the restoration of the severely degraded grassland on the Qinghai Tibetan Plateau. We call it black soil beach. Like here, look, the grassland degraded everywhere, just like the beard had no hairs on it. So we did the reseeding on this grassland by planting the local grasses, and the land will be covered. And we also measured the productivity value and the ecological service value. We found after a couple of years, both the production of the forages and the soil erosion control increased dramatically, and soil nutrients increased dramatically after the restoration. So we can say that the ecosystem services and function can be improved through restoration. So of course, we need to look at how soil and plant interfaces will be worked through this kind of restoration. We need to know above ground vegetation, biodiversity, plant biomasses. We also need to underground biomasses and roots. Of course, one of the very important parts is soil nutrients, how soil nutrients support the growth of the plants above ground. Of course, the soil microbiome, very important to activate the total nitrogen and the total phosphorus becomes as available nitrogen and available phosphorus and potassium for the plant growth. And of course, seed pool and seed bank is very important for the regeneration of above ground plants. So these are the soil plant interfaces we needed to look at it. Of course, we also needed to know animal plant interactions, how the animals' behaviors influence the plants, how the plants influence the animal. We needed to reduce the greenhouse gases, for example, methane, through change the diet composition of the livestock, especially the ruminants, to reduce the methane emission. So here are some kind of the feedings or feeds, feeding additives needed to can be used to reduce the methane emission from the livestock rumen. And of course, we need to systematic approach in resource management. I already, at the very beginning, I said that for the grassland, we have 4 components: plants, animals, humans, and the soil. They have the interaction. So we need to understand how the interfaces can be balanced through this kind of regulation, livelihood, and the livelihood services, productive services, and ecological services. We can balance through the different needs for the human beings by using very good strategy of grazing. We may keep the grassland health and the ecological carrying capacity of grazing. So we have a series of suitable grazing management to keep the health of a grassland. And lastly, we also have some strategy to enhance the adaptive management to climate change. So at we need to enhance the institutional development. At the national level, the local herders' adaptation strategy to climate change need to be enhanced by public awareness and improved by institutional decision. At the local level, the local herders or pastoralists should be able to use their traditional institution and systems as a basis of engagement with any national or global strategies that seek to strengthen their adaptation to meet the challenges of global change. And policymakers, professionals, and practitioners should acknowledge the effectiveness of local people's traditional practices both at institution and scientific levels to enhance the social adaptation to climate change. So local knowledge should be integrated into the policymakers, like local people that have very good knowledge to reduce the climate-induced risk and through their own knowledge and local institutions. That means local livelihoods, access building is very, very important to get a resilient society. Here are a very good example. I learned from the Nepali side. I did a study in Nepal in 2006 and find the local pastoral groups. They are living in the grassland and have very good local organization to structure their society. Like they have very good community committee, and under the community committee they have livestock committee, crop rotation, and other committees. They worked closely each other. For example, the livestock committee, they can work with the crop association to share their end products. For example, the crop residues can be used by the livestock community, and also the dairy products can be sent to the crop community to consume. These are very good, local organization. And of course, they have very good knowledge to do the grazing. Here I did a very good study on yak and jori. Jori means yak, cattle hybrid. The graze the jori, let's say the yak cattle hybrid, it is a low altitude below the 2,800 meter, mostly use the temperate forestry and subtropical forestry. And the graze the yak, it's the high altitude as a transhuman yak farming above 3,000. So yearly round they can share the space, resources and space in a very let's say very sustainable way, and these are the traditional kind of knowledge to manage the grassland resources very efficiently. So of course we also need to do the good governance on the grassland to cope with climate change. So we have the multiple actors, multiple demands, different perceptions, and the uneven powers. Farmers need to be empowered by the policymakers and the outsiders to do the multiple actors, multiple beneficials. So by doing so, the local people's knowledge and institution can be integrated into the policymaker. So of course, there's also social innovations for sustainable pastoralist society. We call it a coupled social, economical, and ecological natural systems. Here I published a book called The Building Resilience of Human Natural Systems of Pastoralists in the Developing World in spring in 2016. In this book, I stressed the importance of coupled human natural systems working for to cope with the global change. Of course, I will end my today's talk by giving you this big diagram, which summarizes how to cope with climate change by in the dimensions of in the dimension of grassland ecosystem perspectives. We need to do sustainable pastoralism of grassland, and through the legal and institutional capacity building, productive capacity building, health and diversity increasement, social economic improvement, and to protect the soil, water, and plant diversity. These are the criteria for the sustainable grassland management to cope with climate change. So I think this is a good way to promote the adaptive management of grassland ecosystem in China, even in the world. Thank you very much for your listening.